Well, good morning, everybody. Great to see it so full. Even the media's got to stand up. I love it. So, I want to begin by just sharing with you a few messages that my office has received this summer, but even in the last few weeks. First one. Hey, Mayor Tenhaken, I'm writing to express my concern over the recent drastic increase in transients and panhandlers concentrated in downtown recreational and main entertainment areas. This increase has affected how and when I spend time downtown, which is quite disappointing. My out-of-town guests have also noticed, often asking, is it usually like this? Question mark. Next quote, someone wrote me recently and said, working downtown, Paul, I have been absolutely appalled at the homeless problem in our beautiful community. The other day, I watched a family have to step over a passed-out drunk person on the corner of Phillips and 9th. Now, this message I got recently, I think, is very well worded. It says, Paul, I've noticed an increased nuisance from people who seem homeless, critical, seem homeless, in downtown Sioux Falls the last 1 or 2 weeks. I want to express concern. Nuisance from people who seem homeless has always been a problem, but recently it seems like there's a higher quantity of normal situations in large groups of people congregating. I'm writing from the perspective of neighborhood quality, but want to acknowledge the simultaneous perspective of the struggling people who have rights and deserve dignity. Very well spoken. And so I'm receiving messages like this multiple times a day, every day right now, okay? Which is why this room is fuller than it's ever been for a press conference, because this issue of nuisance behavior is becoming a problem in our community. We've seen an increase in it, and it's impacting small businesses, our hospitality industry, and it's particularly difficult in our downtown right now. Partly because we have a lot of our services for those folks who are struggling centralized in our downtown. That's a reality. Now there's an 85-15 principle I've been using in this conversation. 85% of people who are struggling with homelessness in our community want to get out of that cycle. They want help. They need help, and we have incredible partners that are doing great work, many of whom are in this room. I see a lot of you. But we have 15% that they don't want help. They don't want to get better. They want to take advantage of our community. And that's the 15% I want to focus on. So I want to make sure that's very clear on the front of this, is that we will continue to do incredible work with UGM and the Banquet and Bishop Dudley and all of our partners that are helping those that are struggling. But we also want to have some tough love and some difficult conversations with that 15% that are causing a lot of challenges in this town right now. We've seen an increase in that disruptive behavior this summer. We've seen a huge increase in calls for PD with that 15%. I can tell you that in my almost 6.5 years in office, never gotten more correspondence on any issue, not even when we don't plow your streets properly, than this issue, okay? So it's a big one, and it's hot, and that's why we're bringing everybody together. I have data on the problem, but I also have just a lot of anecdotes, and I'm not going to get into them. You all have stories and anecdotal data, or anecdotal stories, I should say. But we are seeing an increase in people that are choosing to come to Sioux Falls as a place to choose homelessness, okay? So there are people who are not homeless by choice, and then there are people who are choosing that lifestyle, okay? I want to continue to focus on the latter. One of our partners in the community, our shelter partners, shared with us that about 35% of the individuals that stayed there in May through July were from 28 different states. Okay? So a third of the people staying from 28 states. coming to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Okay? Why? We're a great city, man. And we're a very philanthropic city, and we're a compassionate city. And we should be proud of that. But we also have to remember that that can create challenges and opportunists that will take advantage of that compassion. And we see that happening. We also know, anecdotally, that people from around the state, even with our own state, send their hard-to-house populations to Sioux Falls and Rapid City. We could be having the same press conference in Rapid City with Mayor Solomon. He and I talk about this issue. So if you're a nuisance population in Huron, there's no services for you in Huron, they're going to get you to Sioux Falls somehow. So that's a reality we have to shed light on from a statewide discussion, that we're dealing with a lot of the hard-to-handle population in this state here in Sioux Falls and in Rapid City. Now, there's a compassion side to this whole conversation, and I have been called a lot of things before, but not compassion is not one of them. I have a bleeding heart, okay? I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't have a bleeding heart. Help open the link next door. I spend a lot of time on the link, okay? Because that is messy work that's happening right over there. I'm the chair of the board. We put a lot of money to that. If you have an addiction problem, mental health challenge, we got a bed for you. We got services. We can triage you to places that can get you housed. We got services, okay? But with that 15%, it's time for some tough love, okay? And our partners are doing a good job at connecting with these individuals, but they are also fatigued at what this 15% is doing to their operations too. So this is not a policing issue, first and foremost, okay? A lot of times when we talk about this issue of that 15%, we talk about the cops. Well, we need more cops. Well, you can trespass someone from one spot and move them somewhere else and arrest someone, and they'll be out of jail and getting a free burger from someone before the ink is dry on the report, okay? So cops are not going to, we can't look at our cops and say, fix this, chief, okay? They're dealing with the symptoms of this, and they're doing it really well, but as the chief's going to talk about, it's sucking up a lot of resources from other big fish issues we have in this city right now, okay? So this is really what I call a one Sioux Falls issue. This is not the city of Sioux Falls' issue to solve. This is not UGM's to solve. This is not Bishop Dudley's. This is not St. Francis. This is not UIH. It's not the cops. It's not our business community. Everybody plays a role in this issue. So we're doing a lot of things right now in Sioux Falls. And unfortunately, some of them are unfair to our law-abiding citizens, right? We've had to remove benches in our downtown, okay? Because people pass out on them, okay? Well, a lot of people walk downtown, and they need a spot to sit, and I want to bring my grandma downtown and walk around, and she needs a place to rest between shops. Can't do that, because we have to remove the frickin' benches so people don't pass out on them. That's not fair to the community. So that 15% is monopolizing some of these services for everybody else, okay? So we've removed some benches. We built enclosures over landscaping recently on 8th Street Bridge because it's really being used as a restroom right now, okay? Not acceptable. These changes aren't permanent, but we're starting to send some messages right now that this is not going to be tolerated. And if you're just going to be in our community and mooch off our services and our residents, you're not welcome here, okay? So we're simultaneously working with our partners to strengthen their levels of service, their accountability, things that they can be doing differently. We're also trying to collaborate with more housing opportunities. Just had a discussion with Julie on the way in here about a guy. Here's a guy. Brought these 2 letters. Two letters from 2 different inmates this week. Leaders of Tomorrow is a great program in the prison, okay? Went to their graduation 2 weeks ago. It opened up a floodgate of letters that I'm getting, Bonnie, of people who, yeah. But it was awesome. One guy's, he's getting out next month. You know what he wants from me? Okay, you know what he's writing for? Mayor, I need a mentor. I need a job. Okay? If we don't get this guy a job, and I'm not going to get into his history, you know where he's going to be? If we don't get him a job and get him in St. Francis House, he's going to be at 10th and Phillips, okay? So these are, that's why I'm so bullish on mentorship, Sioux 52, things like that. Those are solutions. Who wants to get messy with a 45-year-old felon? I got a job for you right now in the community. This is how we'll fix some of these issues. Giving this guy $10 when he's at 10th and Phillips is not going to help. It's going to make it a lot worse, okay? I'll tell you that right now. And so what we're asking from the community, we need some things from the community as well, okay, as residents. First thing, there's one headline you can put on this press conference: quit giving out cash. Stop giving out cash. We do not have a cash problem in Sioux Falls. If you need housing, I got housing options for you. If you need food, lots of food options for you. If you need blankets, tons of blankets, okay? If you need addiction care, it's a 9-iron away right there. Whatever you need, we have a nonprofit that's willing to help you with that. But if you need cash, I know what you need cash for. So our community has to stop enabling this 15% by giving out money. It's as simple, the most simple thing you can do. Stop giving out money. I'll give you two examples. We know a well-known individual in our community who battles addiction, severe addiction. He was given a $100 bill recently, okay? And shortly thereafter, our cops find him passed out, stone drunk, okay? He's got $100, man. You just made his week, okay? And so who gets the call when he's passed out drunk? Okay? Not the liquor store, not the guy who just thought he did a good deed, the mayor. Mayor, what are you doing about this guy? I'm like, dude, I can't stop someone from giving this guy a hundo. You can all do that, you know? We had another situation. One of our largest employers in Sioux Falls, they had one of their delivery vans. We saw the driver roll down, give someone some money. Fight broke out between the two guys there. They both ended up in jail, fighting over this 20 from one of our largest companies. I mean, guys, this is silliness that we're doing this and enabling this behavior. A challenge we have. So we're doing things in the city. We're calling the community. We're also calling on people to, in our business community, to consider stop selling bottom shelf gut rot liquor, okay? That's $6.99 for a liter, okay? I don't know what the margins are in that stuff, but I know what it's being used for, and it's not to mix some cocktails at Crawford's. Like, it's bad stuff. And so we're doing our part, asking the private sector to maybe consider to do their part. And let me give you an example. People would say, well, just get it somewhere else. We stopped selling to get it somewhere else. We heard the same argument for years on the most crime-ridden block in our city. That was the Mercado Lucky Lady block. For years, I could show you a heat map of policing, and that thing was bright red. We could just circle. I would do ride-alongs with our cops. We'd just circle that block because something was happening every 10 minutes. What did we do? We decentralized. We stopped selling liquor there. Okay? And I'll show you a heat map now. Chief can talk about it. Not much going on in that block anymore. Okay? Did we cure alcoholism by not? No, of course not. We decentralized the problem, though. Okay? And so we can help cure alcoholism with places like the Link and things like Store. So what was most telling to me, I'm going to close with this, and I'm going to turn it over to the Chief because he's got a lot of good comments on this topic, is you're seeing a national trend that's changing. The narrative is changing around this topic where people are saying enough, enough. And most recently, my mayoral colleague in San Francisco, Mayor London Breed, started a program. I think it's called the Welcome Home Program, something like that. And they're giving out bus tickets. Before housing, before anything else, we will buy you a bus ticket in San Francisco to get you out of our city. And that's happening in San Francisco, okay? A very liberal community that is realizing that some of the things that they've done have ruined their community. If I say San Francisco, they have a brand already that they're trying to unring the bell of what they've done. So we have an opportunity right now where this challenge is small enough, we can fix this. I mean, with the right community support, and like, this is a fixable problem. If we don't, though, right now, in 5 years, we're going to have big problems. Okay? We're going to have big problems in this community. So it's the great thing about Sioux Falls. We're big enough to have so many amenities, so many things to do, but we're small enough that if we identify something we want to do, dude, let's get a bunch of people in the room, let's figure it out, and let's fix it. So there's compassion and a tough love balance, and that's where we're trying to strike on some of these challenges. So with that, I'm going to turn over to the Chief for a perspective from his chair in law enforcement.
Hi, Chief John Toom, Sioux Falls Police Department. And again, just here to share some perspective from the police department. I think we've matured as a community. I think back to when I was a sergeant. Many times we'd have issues in this theater, and the cops were the ones that were going to solve it. Right? It was always about what's law enforcement going to do about this situation. And I think we've matured as a community now to say, what's the holistic view of the problem, and understand that it is a one Sioux Falls, a one team, a citywide approach that we have to do to approach this. Because as we've said in the past, we can't arrest our way out of issues, and we can't police our way out of issues. But I think homelessness is not a police issue. It's not a criminal issue, but bad behavior is. And that's where we come in. We're called to manage bad behavior, and we can say that bad behavior continues to escalate, as the mayor has highlighted with some of his examples. We as a community are incredibly compassionate, and that's one thing I'm most proud about being from Sioux Falls, when we talk about compassion. And you'll see me first up, especially with nonprofits, to praise what our nonprofits are doing and what they're accomplishing, even having my own words used against me sometimes when they ask for funding about how important they are to our community and the great things that they do within our community. But we'll never stop saying that, because we are compassionate. However, our compassion is being taken advantage of. And that's a very clear distinction of what I want to align to. So we talk about who's there, who's here to help, and where our compassion is being. And again, many of these folks who are taking advantage of our compassion are then engaging in bad behaviors. And that's something I want to really clearly line up. And we talk about this as a downtown issue, but let's talk about what we see in other parts of the community. I'm going off the off-ramp as my private car one day, and I see what I can spot from 100 miles away as a professional panhandler. Every single part of the makeup is a professional panhandler. I know this because I've been around the block, right? I know what's there. Go past me, no money. I watch the next 3 cars hand money out the window to this professional panhandler, right? So I think we talk about the downtown issues and the things that are there, but the panhandling and the issues that are feeding some of these issues are taking place throughout our city. The reality is we've had to shift resources to deal with this issue this summer. We recognized that things were rising, shifted our areas from other spots, and really in many ways this has dominated our summer. At a time for law enforcement when fentanyl and meth are dominating the conversation, we have the violent crime issues that we're experiencing. Topic number 1 behind traffic and speed, which will always be there, has been this issue. This has dominated our summer conversation and our energy as law enforcement. So what are we doing? We talked about legislation and laws and things that are there. We're engaging with the community, meeting with people, more foot patrols, being able to make arrests where appropriate, cites where appropriate, but we talk about the revolving door too. These are short-term solutions. Many times arrests are made or citations are issued, and the behavior continues because we can't really interrupt some of this behavior and stop it in a way that's a bigger issue to deal with some of those root causes. And we can't be there 24/7, even to the point where, a perfect example is last week we had a SWAT call out on North Dakota. We've had issues going on all over town. Our resources are stretched throughout the town, and the calls start to stack up as far as where people are at and where our resources are at. And so it's a use of our resources by taking a proactive look at this issue, working together to say how can we make sure that we're doing our part in this area to make sure that police resources can be utilized in other parts of the community. So what can we do? And again, we've had to do some internal look too about it. What's our approach and what tweaks do we need to make? And this is us asking the community the same question. No matter what field you're in or what you do, what approaches do you have and what tweaks do you need to make to maybe contribute to this issue? Speak up if you see bad behavior. The money you are giving out. A couple years ago, we had a press conference. We talked about panhandling, and it became a very political issue, even with signs that were posted downtown. This is not politics. I can tell you the money is going directly towards bottom shelf alcohol in 99% of the situations. I again support our nonprofits because we have people there who are literally lined up waiting to help if you want the help. But the cash that's going to them, I'd much rather see go to our nonprofits than to bottom shelf vodka, which is literally contributing to addiction, contributing to the challenges that people are facing, and producing a byproduct, again, that has us all talking about it this summer. Again, some of the times people panhandling are not who you think. I cite the professional panhandler. Literally, people travel the country, panhandle, move on to the next spot. But there's also people who are engaging and who don't know their history and what they've been involved in. We've been surprised when we've had to arrest somebody post an incident who was handling, not for panhandling, and figure out just where they're from and what they were up to. And again, even just the panhandling issue itself, there are ordinances in place which deal with people who stop traffic to give money. These are not ordinances that we wish to enforce. They are not ordinances that we wish to push. But we have to mention it again, that again, by stopping traffic and doing different things and giving money out, you're impeding traffic. And we by no means have the time or resources to start targeting that behavior as well. And I think that would just become a political difficult topic too, but there's things that you can do. If you see an issue downtown that doesn't need police presence, right, we have a great partnership that is developing with Urban Indian. And I think we've engaged them well over a year ago to talk about how we can proactively deal with these issues. And the program and our cooperation is building. Very similar with Downtown Ambassadors. Just a couple weeks ago, was downtown for an event, talked to the ambassadors, learned tons of great intelligence that I didn't know before because they're on the grounds and the streets and they see it every day. And the collaboration that we have is just beginning to develop. And so if you see somebody, you know, that you think is an issue that's a non-police issue that maybe Urban Indian could help with, 605-809-5636. Right? This cooperation is built because we as law enforcement in the city saw a need for somebody to step in some of these non-police issues, and they've answered the call to do that. And here's just a testimonial from one of my officers as we were learning about this program and what it was developed. Hey, this is awesome. I can't believe that we have this resource, because they came out, met where our officers were at. We were able to turn a person over to them to get the care and help they needed in a compassionate way that cut law enforcement out of the equation. Just recently, Assistant Chief Cook and I, along with our homeless coordinator Michelle and other people, had the opportunity to engage with them to help an individual who is actually listed as missing find a way to reconnect them with their family. Great success story. And we were working together, calling and collaborating to make sure that that person got the help they need. And this relationship is going to develop even more to the point where we collaborate jointly. We're talking about having meetings with our ambassadors as well to say, hey, who are the people that we can affect change with? Who are the people that we can help on the road to recovery from the addiction that's gripping them and holding them, or the other issues? And sometimes I think we lose sight of things like we've collaborated with our lawmakers to make it so it's free for our homeless population to get an ID or birth certificate. Great legislation with Tyler Tortson and Kate Whitman last year within the legislature that law enforcement, Sioux Falls, partner with to say, hey, this is a need that we can develop with. And I know St. Francis House and others have already taken advantage of that. So there's resources there collectively and collaboratively. By us working together, we can get people where they need to be, but also understand that there is no silver bullet. There is always going to be issues. There are always things that we're going to have to deal with. And this is just a collective issue that we are aware of it. And I think the importance of this press conference is not to call out that this is being homeless is a crime or anything of that nature. It's to identify that we have people who are bad actors, who are taking advantage of our compassion, and how we collectively make small changes. And I'm going to pitch it one more time from the mayor's perspective. A lot of this starts with mentorship and what is it that we can do collectively as an individual or a community or a corporation or a business to say, hey, we're going to help with this issue collectively and work together. And I think another perspective, though, that's important, because a lot of the calls or issues or complaints that the mayor's office get or that I get is from small business that is experiencing issues downtown. We've collaborated closely with DTSF and with different businesses, and I'd like to invite Tammy Brown up to talk about some of the experiences from that perspective. Oh, there you are. Sorry.
I'm getting old. I need glasses now. As Chief Toom said, I'm Tammy Brown. I own the Spice and Tea Exchange down at 328 South Phillips, and this is our 5th summer in business, and we love being downtown, but as they've mentioned, we've had some challenges. So just from a business owner's perspective that perhaps others who aren't downtown as much could understand, we have a few remarks that I'm going to share. I have a few remarks. We're deeply invested in downtown Sioux Falls. I work there every day. We've always lived near downtown. We just keep moving around the same 8-block area because we want to be near downtown, and we enjoy it. We do have a few bad actors attempting to change that experience and tear down what we and the downtown community have worked so hard to build. It is a vibrant, safe place to shop and walk and live, but we do need to keep it that way. I'm not talking about unhoused people looking for help. As the mayor and the chief have already mentioned, we're giving community, and we've always been willing to help with the resources that unhoused folks need. My family and our small business support and believe in the great services that they provide, and we sympathize with those falling on hard times, and that's why we give our time and talent to those organizations. To be clear, it is not a food shortage. That is not the issue that we deal with as downtown business owners. 3 hot meals a day are available just a few blocks from the downtown shopping area. If someone's hungry, there is food. We cannot say that enough. There is food available. Our Midwest Nice has made downtown Sioux Falls an easy target for panhandlers. They almost never use the money for food. Sadly, it most often goes to feed that addiction. So I want to reinforce again, it might feel good in the moment to hand over cash, but it exacerbates the problem and actually encourages more bad behavior. And those of us downtown, we watch it every day. And so if I can impress that upon anyone, this is a real issue. And downtown isn't just some stores, it's people living there, it's people working there, they're walking to and from their vehicles. There are many different communities that make up our downtown community. We noticed a difference just about a month ago. We take little drives through downtown. We call them neighborhood watch. We think we're clever in our empty nesting stage. Anyway, on a Wednesday night about a month ago, we saw an influx of people who settled into downtown, openly drank, and congregated on street corners and benches meant for public use, not sleeping and panhandling. They were bathing and doing laundry in the fountains and drinking until they wandered into traffic or passed out on the sidewalks. We saw a police officer risk his own safety to run out into traffic to rescue a drunken man who was bound to get hit by a car. This was on a Friday or Saturday night, very busy traffic downtown, and an officer literally had to run into the street to save this guy from falling down in front of cars. As a small business owner, I can tell you what happens when this behavior takes hold. Customers don't come in and sales slow, dramatically. These past 4 weeks, we've watched diners, shoppers, and visitors cross the street to avoid the chaos. Soon, my employees, who've never been afraid to walk to their cars, started telling me they were intimidated by this influx of bad actors. But here's the good news. We live in a community where local government works, and it works quickly. We started calling 911 every time we saw public intoxication, panhandlers passed out on the sidewalks, or people openly drinking from large bottles of cheap vodka, almost certainly funded by well-meaning passersby. And we reached out directly to Mayor Tenhaken and Chief Toom. They listened and responded, but they weren't just reacting. They had already, proactively increased community policing with more officers walking the streets and responding to incidents. They're already strategically planning to prevent this for next summer. The very day we met with Chief Toom, one criminal who'd previously trespassed at our store and had been arrested several times for other crimes, sat down outside the very restaurant where we were meeting the chief. Our chief of police went out personally and arrested that individual for violating a trespassing order and outstanding warrants. The chief then stopped in my store and explained that our trespasser had been arrested and wouldn't be bothering us anymore. That's action. We have the tools to combat this. As I've described, we have a proactive and responsive city government. We have a police force that cares, not to mention excellent care and response from downtown Sioux Falls and Urban Indian Health ambassadors. If you haven't seen the fabulous people walking around downtown in red shirts and hats, you need to meet our ambassadors because they are amazing. But they can't do it alone. It takes all of us. We all must make the difficult choice to firmly say no to panhandlers. If you're able to assist those in need, donate your time and money to the established, credible agencies that truly help those in need. Do not hand cash to panhandlers. Send a message that we will not tolerate this behavior. Sioux Falls is not a place for easy handouts or drunken behavior. I'll turn it back over to the mayor for ending comments.
All right, thanks, Tammy. I'll just close by saying I want to thank all of our partners that are here, that are all doing this work with us together. And it's really the first time in, 6, 7 years that we're really kind of ringing the alarm bell. It's like, all right, we've all known it, we've all seen it, now we got to work together on it. So thank you to each of our partners. You know who you are in this room who are doing great work in this area. So we'd certainly open it up to any questions that you may have for me or the chief or Tammy. Go ahead.
Maybe skim this issue. Thank you. You maybe skim this issue a little bit, talking about people coming from outside communities, but anecdotally, we hear stories of those communities, plus even Sioux City, even Omaha, of communities busing people here. Is there any substance to those anecdotes?
I'm going to let the chief handle that one.
Yeah. So. Some of that's just through field intelligence and what our conversations have had. And again, some of the intelligence that we get, we just by collaborating and talking. And so it really hasn't been one of the probably worst kept secrets that communities within South Dakota are sending people to Sioux Falls. Communities are quoted in news articles from people who are in this room that they lack the resources in their community to care for who's there, and they send them here. Additionally, when people are sent here for health care services, oftentimes they're set out the front door without really a mechanism to get back home. We've also started to hear, though, however, and this has been happening for several years, that word is out about Sioux Falls' compassion and the great network of nonprofits that we have. Some of that gets misconstrued. They're told that some of our shelters do certain things that they don't actually do, or that our nonprofits do certain things, and they show up from other parts of the state, or other parts of the region even. We've even had circumstances where we know people have been bused here or sent here because this is a decent place to go. Now, this is pretty difficult to combat, and we also want to be cognizant as we talk about reunifying people with family that we're not contributing to that same issue. So we want to look at that and say, yeah, we've built, and while Sioux Falls is the center for medical for the region, it's a center for business and commerce for the region. It's also the center for social services. So many people who are left, and again, not to blame the people sometimes, they're left with places where there's no place to help them or nobody who wants to help them. They end up here because we are compassionate and we have that set up. So it's taking a realistic approach, but even again, like we look at different things, and we've even heard this year that people have come from Omaha and Kansas City just because the weather's nicer, right? Like, so they're moving up here because the weather's nicer a little bit too. And so we don't want to get too far into the weeds on this topic. We are where we're at. We've got what we have, and we need to work collectively and collaborate on an individual basis to say what's the opportunity for this individual, and not necessarily cast this blame at other spots. But we have to just confront the reality. We're the center of the region for a lot of things, and that includes social services, and that includes this topic. So.
Dan?
Can you break down where that 15% figure came from? You were splitting 85 and 15. Where you come up with 15 and not 25 or 10?
It's just spitball. No data behind it. It's just to use the example that a vast majority of our people experiencing homelessness are good people, okay? The large majority are. But that small sliver, I could say 95-5, I could say 80-20, but it's the vast majority are good people that are seeking the right help in the right way. I want to just, and one thing I want to clarify too on John's question, because this gets asked to me all the time. We do not have migrants being bused to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Okay, so a lot of people ask me about that. Are we getting migrants bused from the border and from San Antonio and all that? No documented record of that. That's not happening here. So don't see that.
If I could have a follow-up on the 15. So if someone is experiencing a severe mental health crisis or illness or has big-time substance abuse issue, how is that person actively not seeking help?
Because you know the expression, you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't make them drink. So there are people who are addicted. I use the example all the time of Mr. 56 at the link. We detoxed him 55 times. And every time he just wanted to get back out and get his next drink. On the 56th time, he's like, I'm done. This lifestyle sucks. And he got into treatment. So, we got the services. So if they're experiencing chronic addiction, listen, we got a bed for you. We're ready. We're ready for you 24/7, 365 right there.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, we tend to downplay the strength of alcohol and the destructive force that it is to our society. If meth was available at every gas station and sold for a certain price, right, that was attainable and easy to get, right, try telling that person that they need to get out of their addictive loop, right? So we have somebody here who's just recently that I've dealt with that have collaborated with Woke and Urban Indian on, and he's openly admitted to me, he's like, I'm just going to drink a couple half gallons more before I seek change. But it's ready and it's available. And again, we can't stress enough that alcohol is very addictive and damaging. We tend to downplay it, but it's just as destructive, if not more destructive, than some of the meths and fentanyls that we talk about in our community. And so if like I said, if the vice that was gripping you from that disease of addiction was available at every store, every corner you turned, it's even harder to escape that addiction.
Can you guys just elaborate a bit further on some of the concrete small steps that you've already taken? So the extent to which you've addressed benches, fountains, bridges, maybe speak to the park system and the bike trail if there have been any enhanced issues addressing some situations there.
Yeah, so, small things, you mentioned a few of them. I mean, we have to look, where do problem behaviors occur? I'll give you a real specific example. I see Grant Howman's here. Grant's not shy to send me text messages and pictures when there's stuff going on. Which I always appreciate. But
you do reply.
we respond. And for a lot of time outside his building, the landscaping that we had a big block. It was a nice structure, but it turned into a big bench. The block was providing no value in this artistic value. We had to remove the big block, okay? All of our outlets, we've never had to secure outlets before, okay, and lock them. But they've become gathering points, for some of these people to drink and charge phones, because they all have phones. So we have to just make small tweaks like that. If UGM and Bishop Dudley, they have places you can charge phones. So if you're staying there, and you need services, you need electricity. I mean, we're not trying to steal all these things from people, but the people who are using it are typically using it nefariously. So the fountain at 8th and Phillips, which we talked about for years. The White House has a dye they put in their fountains so people don't bathe in it. We got the same thing now in our fountain. So hopefully people aren't doing their laundry at 8th and Phillips anymore because we have places that will do your laundry. We have services for that all over. So just making small tweaks like that. So we're doing things, and the chief could talk ad nauseum about a lot of things we're doing from a foot patrol standpoint, a policing standpoint, and I want the community to know that just because our SROs are going back to school in the fall doesn't mean we lose that saturation patrol that we've had downtown. We're going to be continually shifting some resources and looking at ways that we can kind of keep the pressure on the bad actors right now so that, quite honestly, they say, it ain't worth it here. It ain't worth it. The panhandling's dried up. We don't, it's just not easy anymore here. And that's kind of the goal, honestly, with that 15% is we need to say, listen, we got services. If you want the services, we'll go there. We want to help you. But if you don't, can't help you.
Mayor, you're right. We have services for everything. If people want help, they can get it. But what does the city need? I mean, we talked about the prison, obviously the link, which is an incredible operation, but you've talked about how it's very difficult to finance it, that there are ongoing challenges there, and the mission is huge. Yeah. What do you need? We also know that Human Services in the past has put people in cabs and sent them up here. You've got all this influx. what can the state do? This is a state issue to some degree, the prison, Human Services Center, other communities.
Yeah.
If you could have anything, what would it be?
Well, I mean, you always need capital. So one of our biggest challenges at the Link is getting people to want to work there. I mean, you want to work in a detox place, dealing with that 15%, 24/7, 365, that is the Lord's work they are doing over there. And to get them to want to stay in that job is hard. So if I could pay them twice as much as a normal nurse makes so that they'd want to stay there and do that work. We need more people who want to get into these fields of addiction treatment and mental health treatment. You know, Avera can only do so much, and, you know, their mission can only go so far, so we need more people who want to do that work. You know, and I think, honestly, if I could, you know, come up with a couple $100,000 if someone wants to support this, and we could do a little bit of a public campaign on this issue. I mean, we got 100 people here or whatever it is, but the community needs to know about this. I mean, when our STD rates went through the roof, we did a Protect Your Parts campaign, you know, to like, hey, you need to know this is going on. We need to educate the community on this issue too a little bit more, because I think there's a naivety out there about this, and there's a compassion fatigue that I think a lot of people are starting to feel.
Patrick, I'd be remiss not to capitalize on that question you just asked, because when we look at the statewide component, what are other communities lacking within our state that they can't care for their people, right? And I think that is a statewide question, because Sioux Falls is blessed, again, with a population base and a size and scale of government and people that we can do things that other communities can't. So what are the opportunities for the Mitchells, Hurons, Brookings, Watertowns to say, what does a regional center look, or a center for them look like? What does services look like that are state funded and supported? Because yeah, at this point, Sioux Falls and Rapid are caring for the entire state in many ways in their issues. And again, many in the state may be comfortable with that, but I don't believe that's an appropriate response from a state level. I think there's some ownership that all communities can take in this issue, when the easy button may be to say, hey, Sioux Falls and Rapid have medical, they have this, this, and this. Let's build up the resources in other communities so that's not the easy button solution for many who may seek to take that, rather than the hard road, which is what many of our nonprofits have decided to take, is the hard road, right? It's sometimes thankless service, but it's service that needs to be done, and it serves the community and changes lives individually, not by percentage points. There's individual success stories that each of these nonprofits can tell you about people's lives who have transformed and changed. And every community should have the opportunity to say that we have these success stories too.
I'm not sure exactly which of you this is for, but I mean, you obviously referred to this is not a new issue. You talked about the signs and how that became sort of a political issue. I guess, how do you see this as different? Were the signs effective when they happened? Do you think, I guess, what do you see saying this is going to change that didn't change last time? Or are you hoping it's going to change?
Earned media works, Trevor, so.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. We're trying to get the word out, you know. Like, do signs work? Maybe. I don't know, you know. Does this work? I hope so. Do we have to do a campaign? Yes. Am I going to get invited to speak to Rotary about this? I hope so. I mean, I'm just going to keep talking about it. And so I think that's the hope, is we're just elevating the topic. Just like earlier this year, we had some real exhibition driving issues. We still do. And these guys did some saturation patrols and busted a lot of just meathead drivers in our city, you know, who are racing and sending a message that it's like, all right, that's not going to be tolerated. So my hope is actually to that 15%, they start getting a message like, ooh, you know, I don't know if the golden goose is going to keep laying the eggs for much longer here in Sioux Falls, based on the way the city, nonprofits, police are all kind of collaborating.
Are you planning a marketing campaign? Because that would seem, I mean, we'll all do something today, but tomorrow's another day. Public perception is a very difficult thing.
We just started talking about if we would do a marketing campaign. I think it's very appropriate, you know, so we'll see. I hope so. One more question, if there is one. Otherwise, we'll wrap it. Dan, go ahead.
Seems like there's a lot of attention on panhandling in this news conference. Slightly unrealistic hypothetical, but to what degree would all these concerns be, would these concerns be satisfied if, let's say, no one in Sioux Falls ever gave to a panhandler again? And just how big of a off switch would that be?
Well, I'll tell you this. The nexus. The root cause of most of the things we're talking about right now is alcohol and drunkenness. Drunkenness requires alcohol to purchase. To purchase alcohol, you need money, and if you don't have a job, the way you get money is panhandling. So if you want to fix E, we got to start with A. So if that would just go away, we would fix a lot of problems. I mean, we would fix a lot of problems. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but you agree?
No, I mean, I can simplify.
Chime in. I know you agree.
I can simplify with this measure too. Is like if you are in South Dakota, you know where the fish are biting because there's 100 boats on the lake, right? And they're still, as long as the fish are biting, the boats are still there, and word gets out and things spread. And from what I've seen, people are just, even despite our messaging, 2 years ago we brought this up, I think, and this is when it became more political and it became a issue like this about what are we doing? Well, a lot has changed in 2 years, and I don't think our message is really heeded from 2 years ago, despite the politics of it all. And again, we almost seem to have doubled down on giving money, right, as a community. Just me driving around in my personal vehicle have observed more money being handed out the window probably this year than any year before. It's because people care. It's because they're compassionate. But the reality is, as long as the fish are biting, right, people will still be out there looking at us. So if we're still engaging in this behavior, it's only going to increase, and I think that's the message we want to give. In many things, sometimes we wonder, well, what's the effect? Well, we don't know the effect. I think many people thought with some of the Pettigrew Heights issues with Lucky Lady and Mercados, right, well, is closing that going to make a difference for call volume for the area? And I'm like, I took a wait-and-see approach. And I can show you statistically in the past 6 months what that's done as far as call volume for that area. It's had a drastic, marked difference. So we won't know, right, unless we fully all get behind this and implement it. And again, I want to say it again. If you want to give money, there's nonprofits in this room that will give you all their information. They'll have a banquet. They'll have whatever you need. They'll have a link. They will gladly take your money because they are struggling for funding too, because funding is being restricted at other levels from federal grants and things of that nature. Funding's at an all-time need right now. Like I said, if you want to hand out $100, drive to one of the nonprofits. They won't argue with you. They'll take your $100, okay? And that's the way you can help, and that's the way you can impact change. You want to help Leaders of Tomorrow behind bars? Yeah, help them out, right? Find a way to get involved in a program with mentorship. You gave me the mic, so now I'm going to go off one more time, right? How does some of this probably get interrupted even sooner? By mentoring a kid in school, right? Yet even to this day, despite the mayor and I banging the drum every single press conference we get, I guarantee there's tens of 20s of countless kids that don't have mentors going into the school year. And so we sit back and we complain about what's not happening and what's not being fixed at a governmental level. Government can only go so far. How you invest in your community, and it probably starts way downstream with that issue and ends with this issue. So get behind something, do something. If you're not doing something, be quiet about the topic and find something else to put your energy to. Get involved, and that all fits together. And we'll probably just maybe end it on that. Perfect. Yeah, done that one. So, okay, thank you. All right.
Thanks for coming. More to come on this topic. Appreciate it.